Who is Kamala Harris, and what would America be like with her as president? Well, her record, her history paints a very bleak picture of a person who is calculating, who is vengeful, who is calloused, and we should all be concerned about someone like that entering the White House. So we are going to give you the details on who Kamala Harris is today and how I think we on this side can really push back against her campaign. Before we get into it, just a couple announcements. One, we've got our Share the Arrows event. It's a crazy election season, y'all. We want to link arms with like-minded Christian women. Make sure that we are all on the same page, that we are armed with the Word of God and with the encouragement that comes from Him. We've got Rosaria Butterfield, Elisa Childers, Abby Halberstad, Francesca Battistelli at our Share the Arrows event in Dallas, Texas on September 28th. We've got tickets available, VIP tickets available, all access tickets available, and general admission all available at sharethearrows.com. We may have some more speakers that we are even adding to the lineup, sharethearrows.com. Also, I've got my parenting Q&A. It is out for subscribers only. If you go to blazetv.com/Allie, you'll get a discount on your subscription, access to all subscriber exclusive content on Blaze TV, blazetv.com/Allie. All right, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com. Use code Allie at checkout. That's goodranchers.com, code Allie. Hey guys, welcome to Relatable. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend so far. Okay, we've got a crazy start to the week with the stock market crashing and all of that craziness. My husband tried to mansplain it to me this morning, but honestly, when people start using numbers, part of my brain just kind of like turns off a little bit. If you explain it to me maybe in some kind of literary metaphor, I think that would help me understand what's going on. But I do know stock market crash bad. And so I think that's all we need to know to understand that it's causing the economic turbulence and that our current leadership is not equipped to handle it. And economic turbulence is never good, but especially when we have been dealing with the effects of inflation the way we have for the past few years. Guys, it is wild. I follow this. I don't follow very many influencers, but I follow this one influencer. She's not political at all. And she was posting a product that she has promoted before, this fall decoration, and she posted the price of this decoration from a couple years ago that she had posted at the time versus what it is today. It was like a $70 difference. And that's, of course, not just true about these items that we don't really need. It's also true about the necessities that we are purchasing. You can go and compare the price of your Amazon cart from a couple years ago to what it is today, and your salary has probably not increased at the same rate that the cost of these items has increased. I mean, this has a real effect on our lives. It has a real effect on our kids, on our ability to provide for them, to provide stability for them. And the stock market crashing just adds another variable to all of that. We're going to talk about our current leadership today, specifically Kamala Harris, and whether or not we think as a person and as a politician, as a potential president, if she is going to be able to lead our country into stability, economic prosperity, into a future that is characterized by freedom and fairness and true actual equality, not just the progressive bastardization of that word. And every Monday, maybe not every Monday, but many Mondays, I'll say, leading up to the election, we are going to focus specifically on the candidates, really on Kamala Harris and who she is, what she brings to the table, but we'll also be comparing and contrasting her to Donald Trump. And these are episodes that I want you to share with your friends who are on the fence about who to vote for, your friends who are apathetic. I know that some of you have friends who are considering voting for everyone on the ticket except for the presidential choice because they just can't decide. I just want to bring clarity to this conversation. about who to vote for, what the candidates really believe, what I think they will do to our country, for better and for worse. This episode is really for those of us on the conservative side of the aisle who are voting for Donald Trump. I just want to make sure that we wrap our heads around what I think, at least for our demographic, the Christian, and specifically even the Christian woman, since that is the majority of this audience, what our mentality should be, what our messaging should be. So I'm not in this episode necessarily trying to appeal to the undecided or to appeal to the person on the other side of the aisle. I want us on this side to remember who Kamala Harris is, and also to wrap our minds around how we need to convey who she is and the consequences of a Kamala Harris presidency. So to do that, I first want to back up to Kamala Harris's beginnings as a politician. Now, a lot of you know her origin story, but I've never talked about it. And so I want to take us back to Kamala Harris, the young lawyer, how she got her start in politics, because it tells us a lot about who she is. You might remember me talking about this last week on Glenn Beck's show, but Kamala Harris is a mean person. She is what I would call a mean girl. Now, I am not trying to just name call her or throw an ad hominem insult at her for the sake of just being mean-spirited myself. I'm not just talking about what she has done, maybe personally in friendships, although I would say that matters. I am talking about who she is through her profession, what she has actually done, how she has exploited people in her positions of power, how she has vied for power, no matter who she has to push aside, no matter who she has to put down. Kamala Harris is a rabidly power-hungry person who has sought more and more influence at the expense of the most vulnerable. That's who Kamala Harris is. So when I say that she's a mean girl, that's not just me being petty. That's actually probably the most charitable and polite way I can describe who Kamala Harris has been throughout her adult life and through her career. And I want to make the case over the next several weeks that Kamala Harris is the last kind of person that you want in the White House, the last kind of person that you want as president. We can talk all we want to about the weird guy or the weird guys on the other ticket, but you know what's a lot worse than a weird guy? That's a mean girl. A mean girl with all the power in the world, and that would be a president, Kamala Harris. So let's go all the way back to Willie Brown. Again, many of you know who Willie Brown is, but I've never talked about it. And so a lot of you in my audience, you don't even know what this is. You've heard kind of vague references to Willie Brown. I want to talk about this, not even from the perspective of her being promiscuous as a person, but really from the vantage point of her, again, taking advantage of people and not caring about people who are very vulnerable because all she wants is more power. So Kamala Harris spent her early career as a courtroom prosecutor with the Alameda County District Attorney's Office. She was recruited to a supervisory position with the San Francisco DA's office from about 1990 to 1998. She met Willie Brown when he was the Democratic Speaker of the California State Assembly. He was widely considered at the time one of the most powerful politicians in California. He had been a member of the California State Assembly for 3 decades, half of that time as its speaker when he and Harris began dating. Kamala Harris was first referenced in the San Francisco press in 1994 when the San Francisco Chronicle published an article telling how she attended Brown's 60th birthday party where guest Clint Eastwood spilled champagne. This is according to the outlet. Spilled champagne on the speaker's new steady, Kamala Harris. So it was known at the San Francisco scene at the time that Kamala Harris was steadily dating Willie Brown. Now, at the time, Brown was married to Blanche Brown. They had apparently been estranged, some say still to this day, since 1980. 81. Of course, that doesn't make this any morally better, but as we'll get to in just a second, I'm not even sure that is true. So let's get into a few more details about Kamala Harris's relationship with Willie Brown and why it says a lot about who she is and how she leads not only her own life, but in the positions of influence that she has been placed in. But let me pause and tell you about our first sponsor for the day. It's We Heart Nutrition. Y'all, I have been getting so many compliments on my nails lately. I've never had my natural nails be this long, but I can really attribute that, the health of my nails and even my hair, to We Heart Nutrition. These are supplements that I started taking at the beginning of the year. I had been taking other prenatal vitamins for probably 5 years, and I didn't really see like a huge difference in my health. I was taking them every day, and still in the fall I was getting sick so much. But then I switched to We Heart Nutrition, and I have just felt so much better, more energized and healthier because I take their postnatal vitamin, I take their iron supplement, their magnesium every night. I also take their omega-3s, pretty much anything that you can get from We Heart Nutrition I take. It's perfect for this postpartum season of my life. And I really think they're most effective because all of their ingredients come in the most bioavailable forms. That means that it's the kind of ingredient that your body can really absorb. If you're going to go through the trouble of taking all of these vitamins, you might as well take ones that really work. This is a Christian family-owned company. They're unapologetic about those values. So go ahead and go to weheartnutrition.com. Take their free quiz. They'll show you which supplements will work best for you and your needs and your stage of life. Use promo code Allie for 20% off your order. weheartnutrition.com, code Allie. So Harris dated Willie Brown from the spring of 1994 through 1995. They split after his election as San Francisco mayor. Harris was only 29 at the time, and Brown was 60 years old. So the age gap there, he was old enough to be her father and then some. As Brown's girlfriend, Harris found herself rubbing elbows with many of California's political powers and enjoying a new BMW courtesy of her powerful boyfriend. That was reported by the New York Post. According to the Washington Examiner, the breakup reportedly happened shortly after Brown met 32-year-old San Francisco socialite Carolyn Carpenetti, and then he ended up having a child with her. So he just not a great guy. And you can actually see the picture that was in this San Luis Obispo County Telegram. They're kissing right there. 29-year-old, 60-year-old, apparently in love. I'm sure that it was a very sincere courtship while he was still married to the original mother of his 3 children. So while they were dating, this is really what matters and what is pertinent here. Willie Brown appointed Kamala Harris to 2 lucrative state commissions on the California Medical Assistance Commission and Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board when he was the California Assembly Speaker. These were very well-paying jobs. She didn't have to do a lot in order to maintain these jobs, and she was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in today's money at these posts that he just gave to her because of their romantic and sexual relationship. He also helped her with her first political race for San Francisco District Attorney in 2003. Now, during this run for San Francisco District Attorney, Kamala Harris called Willie Brown an albatross hanging around my neck, and she attempted to distance herself from him because, surprise, surprise, he was embroiled in all kinds of controversy because of allegations of corruption in his political positions. And we don't have time to get into what all of those allegations were, but he was a very corrupt guy. She said this. I mean, this is ice cold. She said his career is over. I will be alive and kicking for the next 40 years. I do not owe him a thing, she told San Francisco Weekly. In other words, he's going to die well before I am done in my political career. I mean, that is frigid. That is frigid. Willie Brown published an op-ed in the San Francisco Chronicle in 2019 when Kamala announced that she would be running for the Democratic presidential nomination. Brown wrote this: "Yes, I may have influenced her career by appointing her to 2 state commissions when I was Assembly Speaker, and I certainly helped with her first race for District Attorney in San Francisco. I've also helped the careers of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Governor Gavin Newsom, Senator Dianne Feinstein, and a host of other politicians. But did you sleep with them? But did you sleep with them first?" Now, that would also be an interesting story if so. I don't think so, though. Brown added that the difference was that Harris was the only one who sent word to Brown after becoming San Francisco District Attorney that she would, listen to this, Kamala Harris, that she would indict Brown if he so much as jaywalked. He concludes, "That's politics for ya." Yikes. Brown faced several allegations of pay-to-play corruption while he was Speaker and Mayor, but several FBI investigations turned up empty. He was actually never indicted for any of those things. So I will just say that there were a lot of allegations of corruption there, but I guess we can't say that we know for sure. So that is how Kamala Harris got her start. And again, I'm not even talking about the morality of sleeping with a married man or having sex before you get married. Obviously, we've got a candidate on the Republican ticket who has had his number of marriages and sexual exploits. I am talking about how she became a prominent figure in politics. Did she earn her way there? Did she work her way to the top? Did she merit those positions of influence and power? No, she did not. Did she consider at all the feelings of Blanche Brown when she was in a relationship with Willie Brown for apparently the express purpose of just getting ahead? And then she turns around when she gets in those positions of power and threatens him with criminal punishments if he so much as jaywalks. Wow. So let's look at Willie Brown's wife, Blanche Brown. Willie married Blanche in 1958. They have 3 children together. You can see they're really beautiful family. She's very beautiful. Soon after Willie's affair with Harris ended, Blanche Brown was surprisingly, see, this is where it gets a little confusing because it was reported that they were estranged in 1981, and that's how the press tries to justify Kamala Harris's relationship with him in the 90s. But she was at her husband's side when he was inaugurated as San Francisco's mayor in 1996. Now, maybe they were estranged and she was just like manipulated or something to be there for that inauguration in 1996. It's kind of unsure. Or maybe they weren't estranged at all. They're actually still married to this day, strangely enough, even though Willie Brown has gone on to have a baby with another woman. He had a baby with another woman in 2001. When DailyMail.com reached out to Blanche in 2020 to ask what she thought of Harris being named as Biden's presidential running mate, she broke into laughter. Pressed on whether she would vote for them, Blanche, 84, added, "I'm sorry, I don't want to comment at all." Poor woman. I can't even imagine what she has been through and the things that she knows about Kamala Harris. My goodness. I mean, those things must be consequential, right? But she'll never talk, and she should just go on to live the rest of her years in peace. Hopefully she's able to do that. It's interesting. Harris wrote a memoir in 2019. Did you know that? It's called The Truths We Hold. And she doesn't mention Willie Brown at all in her memoir. The person who is responsible for her rise to political fame. Isn't that interesting? So that's how Kamala Harris got her start. Again, not by earning her position. Even if I disagreed with her, which of course I do on policy, I would still give someone credit for working hard and to get to where they are. That simply is not what happened with Kamala Harris. She did not care about who she was hurting, whether it was Willie Brown or Blanche Brown or any of their children, by the way. These public displays of affection. Did she think at all about how this might affect Willie Brown's children when she was dating him publicly while he was still married? Again, just get into politics and then to turn around and to publicly threaten him. I mean, again, that just says a lot about who Kamala Harris is. Now, what about professionally? When we look at who she was as a prosecutor. She was deputy district attorney in 1990 to 1998, then San Francisco district attorney 2004 to 2011. Let me just tell you one story. There are some stories that I have received from various people. Some of them are public, some of them are not public, and I can't make them public, at least right now, of people who have interacted with Kamala Harris, especially when she was in politics in California, particularly when she was a prosecutor. But here's one public story, and this was reported by the Daily Wire. Here's a summary of it, and we'll get into the details. When Kamala Harris was San Francisco district attorney, she snubbed the widow of an officer who was murdered by a known gang member. She refused to seek the death penalty in order to serve her political career, which even gained condemnation from former prominent California Democrat, Senator Dianne Feinstein. Now, Senator Feinstein she was a lady of the left. In some cases, not in all cases, but she was a lady of the far left. I mean, she was in California politics for a very long time. And of course, in order to get reelected, you have to be at least a little bit of a communist. And so Kamala Harris actually received criticism for how lax she was when it came to enforcing the law from Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein. Renata Espinoza, the widow of the San Francisco Police Department officer Isaac Espinoza, said that then DA Kamala Harris never reached out to her or said that she was sorry for her loss. Now, when Harris was running to be the district attorney of San Francisco, she said that she would never pursue the death penalty, even for the most heinous murders, okay? Like the rape and murder of a small child, Kamala Harris would say, no, the death penalty is never justified for that. That in and of itself, I think is disqualifying because that is lawlessness. Now, I know some of you disagree with me on the death penalty. I'll link my past episodes on the death penalty. I think it's not only justified, but necessary for some crimes after due process. And so this alone tells me how she will deal with lawlessness in the United States. And then on April 10th, 2004, SFPD officer Isaac Espinoza, he was finishing his shift when a gang member murdered him in cold blood. This was actually the first time an officer of the San Francisco PD had been killed in the past decade. He left behind his wife and a 3-year-old little girl. And again, Kamala Harris reportedly really did nothing to try to comfort this widow. That would have been something that would have been very common for someone in this position. 3 days after this happened, Harris spoke during a news conference and announced that she would not be seeking the death penalty. That was so important for her to announce. She had not reached out to Espinoza's wife again at any point prior to the announcement. And specifically, this is what Espinoza said. She did not call me. I don't understand why she went on camera to say that without talking to the family. It's like you can't even wait until he's buried. I felt like she had just taken something from us. She had just taken justice from us, from Isaac. She was only thinking of herself. I couldn't understand why. His widow says, I was in disbelief that she had gone on and already made her decision to not seek the death penalty for my husband. At Espinoza's funeral, Harris was rebuked by none other than then Senator Dianne Feinstein, who at the time supported the death penalty. The senator said, this is not only the definition of tragedy, it's the special circumstance called for by the death penalty law. That is exactly right. And hundreds of officers attending the funeral stood up and clapped after Feinstein's remark. Even after the funeral, though, Harris did not call Renata. She instead wrote an op-ed. How, again, ice cold is this? For the San Francisco Chronicle, defending her choice not to seek the death penalty. That is always what is most important to Kamala Harris. That's the pattern that you'll see over and over again. What's most important for her is how she's perceived and to defend herself politically. What's most important for her is to maintain power at the expense of everyone else. She didn't care about this widow. She couldn't even pretend to care about this widow. She could have just called her and just repeated some rote talking points, but she couldn't even do that. Instead, she had to have a press conference and say, I'm not pursuing the death penalty. She had to write an op-ed for the San Francisco Chronicle saying, I'm not pursuing the death penalty. When she was asked about this in 2019, when she was running for president, she said, the part that she still thinks about the most in this case was not the man who died, who was murdered, was not the toddler, who no longer has her dad, was not the widow left without her husband. She said this. She said that she should have waited until after the funeral to announce that she wasn't seeking the death penalty. She said maybe it was a political novice mistake. I don't know. That's Kamala Harris. She's mean-spirited. She's cold, calloused, calculated. Even when something like that could have been a political layup for her, just to show the human side of who she is, I'm not sure that she's capable of doing that, to be quite honest. Okay, we've got more about her career, her ruthlessness when she was Attorney General of California. And let me pause and tell you about our second sponsor. That's Adele Natural Cosmetics. This is another unapologetically pro-life, Christian, family-owned company that I am so proud and excited to partner with. And I use their products every day. Adele Natural Cosmetics is a cosmetic line. It's a skincare line that uses only the most natural ingredients. You can pronounce everything that's in their ingredient list on the back of their products. Everything is very transparent. And I love what it's done for my skin. I've been using, for example, their Blue Lagoon line for the past several years. Now that I'm getting up there to the ripe old age of 32, I've got some, fine lines, and that's all fine. I just want to make sure that I am taking care of my skin, nourishing my skin the best that I possibly can. So I try to avoid as much toxic stuff as possible. That's why I love to rely on Adele Natural Cosmetics. And I also love, when I'm not in the studio, I love to wear a lot of their makeup products as well. Really light, really breathable, but has good coverage and works really well. Go to AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com. Use promo code Allie at checkout for 25% off your first time purchase. AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com, code Allie. Many of you have probably heard of David Daleiden, but maybe you haven't. David Daleiden is a journalist, and in the summer of 2015, he released shocking footage of an undercover investigation to expose the abortion industry for its complicity in fetal tissue trafficking. People will say that this is some grand conspiracy theory, that it didn't happen. You're being gaslit. Okay? You are being absolutely gaslit by that. It's not just happening in California, reportedly, either. It's happening across the country. There are incentive structures that Planned Parenthood has with the governments and with other actors to supply them with fetal tissue for the purpose of experimentation and even profit. I have to say reportedly, but I would say that the reporting is pretty darn reliable. And you're not supposed to care about that. You're not supposed to know about that. But we talked about some of that is verifiable with Megan Basham, of course, our own NIH, working with Planned Parenthoods in Pennsylvania to get fetal tissue for the purpose of experimentation on mice. And so this is just another part of that. David Daleiden uncovered that again in 2015. He posed as a potential fetal tissue buyer, and he captured video evidence that showed prominent abortionists, Planned Parenthood executives, and biotechnology companies were engaged in a systematic campaign to profit from the body parts of aborted babies. I just want you to pause and think about that for a second. And of course, this is in violation of state and federal laws. It is in violation to sell human tissue. That's actually why you hear that phrase egg donor or sperm donor. They are getting paid for that. So if you've ever paused to think like, wait, why are they called a donor? Because they are getting paid thousands and thousands of dollars to sell their eggs. But they're not called egg sellers and sperm sellers because technically they are being paid for their time and their effort, not actually the egg or the sperm. Isn't that just absolute hogwash? That's just crazy when you think about it, but it's because it is actually illegal to sell human tissue. Days after the video was posted, agents from the California Department of Justice, armed with rifles and canine dogs, raided his apartment on orders from then California Attorney General Kamala Harris to seize the video footage. Now, if this was really just all manipulated, if this wasn't real, because that's what we keep hearing, it was deceptively edited, it wasn't real video footage. Tell me why authorities from the state of California would have to seize the video footage. Harris claimed that Daleiden had violated state laws by recording these videos. Now, did Kamala Harris also investigate Planned Parenthood to see if these things were true? to see if they really were trafficking body parts? Because wait, isn't the pro-choice side really about just my body, my choice? It's surely not about trafficking dead baby parts, right? It's not really about that. It's just about bodily autonomy. And so why would Kamala Harris want to cover up something like that? Why would she want to defend Planned Parenthood? Shouldn't she care if Planned Parenthood is corrupt, is doing something illegal? It doesn't seem so. Because she never investigated Planned Parenthood for these allegations. Planned Parenthood executives in California had arranged for in-person meetings with Harris about the videos. Letters obtained from court documents show. I wonder what they asked Harris to do and what they said they would do if she didn't do what they wanted her to do. Or she was probably all too glad to comply, considering, again, this is just her pattern. Daleiden's attorneys claimed that Harris's office colluded with prominent abortion providers by giving them the footage seized during the raid of Daleiden's apartment. As Attorney General, Harris took the unprecedented step of charging Daleiden with violating a state eavesdropping law. Wow. In 2017, California Attorney General Xavier Becerra, you know his name, who replaced Harris, charged Daleiden over his criminal recording of confidential conversations. 9 years after the videos were released, Daleiden is still awaiting trial on the felony counts in San Francisco Superior Court. The process is the punishment. Kamala Harris knows that. Here's what David Daleiden has said about this. He commented on her campaign in 2020 when she was trying to run for president. He said, Kamala Harris decided to target me and make me the first and only case of a criminal enforcement of the California video recording law. Kamala Harris sent 11 California DOJ agents into my one-bedroom apartment in Southern California to raid my home to seize the means of publishing the videos. They took the means of publishing speech critical of Planned Parenthood and critical of Kamala Harris's public patrons. That's it, right? He's got it. Everyone should be afraid of Kamala Harris's radical disrespect and contempt for the First Amendment, Daleiden stressed. You think that if she would do that as Attorney General of California, that she wouldn't do that as President of the United States? Think about the implications that has for you and your free speech. What will Kamala Harris not allow you to be critical of? Will you be allowed to report the truth about Planned Parenthood or other abortion providers or any of the institutions that patronize her, that have hoisted her up? Or will she send authorities, not state authorities, but federal authorities, to your house? Again, that's who Kamala Harris is, and she never investigated Planned Parenthood to see if this was even true, that they were trafficking dead baby body parts in a pay-for-play scheme in the state of California. That's Kamala Harris. Speaking of her disdain for the First Amendment, she pushed the Reproductive Fact, FACT, Act in 2015. Of course, that is an acronym, as it is in many of these legislative titles. But California AG Kamala Harris co-sponsored the Reproductive Fact Act in 2015. And here's what it did. It required pregnancy resource centers in California to advertise abortion to clients, and centers that did not offer medical services had to prominently display a sign saying that we're not licensed as a medical facility by the state of California. When the bill was signed into law, Attorney General Harris released the following statement: I am proud to have co-sponsored the Reproductive Fact Act, which ensures that all women have equal access to comprehensive reproductive health care services and that they have the facts they need to make informed decisions about their health and their lives. Now, does she really care about the facts surrounding abortion? Does she really want women to be presented with all of the choices and all of the information about abortion? Because if she did, she would be coming down pretty hard on Planned Parenthood, right? Who regularly lies to women about what is happening in gestation, what is happening with life inside the womb, who fight tooth and nail against any requirement that says that they have to show a woman the life inside of her on the sonogram screen. Now, if you were really pro-choice, if you were really pro totally informed consent, wouldn't you at least want the woman to see what is going on inside of her, to see that it's not just pregnancy tissue, as Planned Parenthood says, but that this is a living, breathing, moving, heart beating person inside you? And then, I mean, I don't believe they should be able to make the decision after that, but if you're truly pro-choice, then they can make the decision. But if they're making the decision based on the manipulation and lies of Planned Parenthood, which tell them that it's just nothing, that it'll just be like a heavy period, that pregnancy tissue is it's just a clump of cells. There's no humanity to it. There's no distinct DNA. You have nothing to feel bad about. Just finish school and then try to get pregnant in 15 years. Don't worry about it. Those are lies. That's manipulation. And so if she really cared about the reproductive facts, then she would require those abortion facilities to make sure that women know about what's going on inside their womb, the options for parenting, the options for adoption. Those are typically not disclosed to women who walk into Planned Parenthood poor, pregnant, and afraid. It's really pregnancy centers who show them all of the different options, who show them, hey, this is what's happening right now inside your body. Here are the different resources that we have for you. We will be here for you through labor, even after, offering free parenting classes and supplies and tools that you need. I mean, my audience knows this maybe better than anyone because you guys have raised so much money and donated so many items through your generosity to pregnancy centers across the country. Like, you have contributed to lives saved, to babies saved. I've told you about the pregnancy center. Of course, the director of this pregnancy center has been on the show before because of the items donated by people like you to this pregnancy center called Prestonwood Pregnancy Center, who they receive free cribs, free baby items, free car seats. She was able to provide a car seat to a woman who had walked into the clinic after she had gone to Planned Parenthood. The Planned Parenthood said that'll be $800. She didn't have $800. She came into this pregnancy center. She got to see the baby on the sonogram. She kept the baby. She chose life. And she got to the hospital to have the baby. She was so impoverished. She didn't have what she needed. The hospital said, you can't go home unless you have a car seat. She told Leanne, the director of this pregnancy center, Leanne said, don't worry, we've got you a car seat. She brought the car seat. Of course, the woman was able to take the baby home. And not only that, but the volunteers at the pregnancy center filled this woman's apartment with all of the baby supplies, the cribs, the wipes, the diapers, the groceries that this young mom needed. And because of the kindness of these people, not only was this mom taking care of her baby, provided for just to get them through those rough few weeks of postpartum, but she also gave her life to Christ, was baptized shortly after her baby was born. Because of the love of Christians who provided for her tangible needs. And then this woman who was provided for by this pregnancy center, she went to the church that this pregnancy center was attached to dedicate her baby. That's something that we do in Baptist circles. You dedicate your baby to the church, just saying that, okay, you guys, fellow believers, you're going to help me raise this child in the way that he or she should go. And when her story was told in front of this huge mega church that Sunday for baby dedication, she stood up and the entire congregation stood up and gave her a standing ovation, applauded for her, and then promised to be with her to help her raise that child in the way of the Lord. Yeah, that's what pregnancy centers are doing. That's what pro-lifers are doing. It's not just pro-birth. Pro-lifers are there through so many steps of that mother's and that child's life. Those are the kinds of people that Kamala Harris wants to punish. Those are the kinds of people, those are the kinds of entities that Kamala Harris, as Attorney General, said, you have to advertise for the dismemberment of this baby that you're trying to save. Now, thankfully, what happened to that law was overturned by the Supreme Court in 2018 because it was unconstitutional. Look, Kamala Harris doesn't believe in free speech. She doesn't. She believes in the slaughter of babies, and she will sacrifice your First Amendment rights on the altar of Planned Parenthood, on the altar of the LGBTQ lobby. That's who she is. That's what she always done. Again, she's mean. And I mean that in the deepest, most profound sense of the word. So don't come at me and say, oh, that's name calling. Literally, like if that's your concern, that calling Kamala Harris mean, that is too mean, in GMI, that means not going to make it. We're not going to make it if that's our priority. Jesus said far worse about the Pharisees. And I would say that Kamala Harris is evil. I'm not even just talking about personality, but what she has done through her positions of power is on par with the corruption of the Pharisees. At least. I mean, unless she repents, she's got a lot of justice coming for her one day. And it's scary to think that she could be the most powerful person in the world with these kinds of values. Now, of course, she took these values into her position as a senator, and she used her position of power to, again, trample on the rights of the most vulnerable. And I'll explain that in just a second. Let me tell you about our next sponsor. This is 7 Weeks Coffee. This is so fitting for what we're talking about right now, just the dignity, the vulnerability of unborn children. We need an all-hands-on-deck approach to try to protect them, and 7 Weeks Coffee is doing their part to protect those babies. The reason that they're called 7 Weeks Coffee is because those babies inside the womb at 7 weeks gestation, they're just the size of a coffee bean, and yet they're made in the image of God, and they've got their own beating heart at that point. They've got their own unique DNA, and they're just as much human as you and I are. And so they matter. They are worth our protection. And so 7 Weeks Coffee, they wed their love of coffee and their desire to save babies. And they created this amazing coffee company that donates 10% of every sale to pregnancy centers and pro-life organizations across the country. They've raised over $500,000 for these pregnancy centers. That has resulted in saving 5,000 lives. Wow. Through providing resources, free sonograms, so many things for these women that make it easier for them to choose life. This is really high quality and great tasting coffee, but you can also know that the great tasting coffee that you are drinking from 7 Weeks Coffee is helping save the lives of unborn children. You should subscribe to their Heartbeat Club, because then you'll get that coffee every month at your front door, and you save 15% when you do that. And then when you use my code, Allie, when you check out at 7weekscoffee.com, you get an extra 10%. So that could be a 25% discount on your purchase at 7weekscoffee.com, code Allie. All right. So when she was senator, she was, according to GovTrack, this is a nonpartisan organization that tracks the votes of each member of Congress. She was the furthest left senator. Now, there was some controversy over this over the past couple of weeks because GovTrack actually deleted her report card. Isn't that strange? After she announced that she was running for president. But they did clarify that even after they removed it, which said Kamala Harris was the furthest left this member of the Senate while she was there, they changed her ranking to the leftmost Democratic senator. So I guess it's a distinction without a difference. I think that's strange. I'm not really sure why they did that after she announced, like, what was the purpose of making that change when they did. Of course, a lot of people were accusing them of running cover for her, but I don't know their motivations behind that, but it's still there. She was the furthest left senator. Now, who else was a senator when Kamala Harris was senator? Bernie Sanders. Like, Kamala Harris was further left than Bernie Sanders, the avowed socialist. That's how far left Kamala Harris is. And there are lots and lots of examples of the things that she voted for and voted against, which have just been disastrous for the United States. But here's one that I just think it paints her cruelty so perfectly. She voted against the Born Alive Infant Survivors Protection Act. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It would criminalize infanticide. Like, we're talking about babies outside of the womb, and clarify the standard of care that must be given to babies born alive after failed abortions. Okay, so this was Senator Ben Sasse. He said, look, this is important because we've heard multiple stories, even in congressional testimonies, of women who they received an abortion. It was a botched abortion. The baby survived, was breathing. The medical staff tried to silence the screams and the breathing of the baby. There's a terrible story of a baby literally being thrown into a waste bucket at an abortion clinic in Florida several years ago until he just died. There was the terrible story of Nurse Jill Stanek. She gave this again in a congressional testimony when she was working at a hospital several years ago. She opened a utilities closet and she found in there a 23-week baby aborted because he had Down syndrome and he was alive. He was struggling to breathe. We have no idea how often this is happening on a daily basis in the United States because these facilities aren't even required to report them many times. And unfortunately, we just don't have a mechanism for knowing these numbers. And so Ben Sasse put forth this very important bill that said, look, it's not even any restriction on abortion at all. Has nothing to do with abortion. This is just saying babies who survive a botched abortion, they have to be given medical care. If they survive, Kamala Harris voted no. She couldn't even bring herself to vote no because she knows actually that would put restrictions on abortion facilities because abortion facilities botch abortions where babies survive and they don't provide medical care for them. That's happening every day in the United States, guys. She voted against the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. It would protect unborn children halfway through pregnancy based on their ability to feel excruciating pain. So late-term abortion, she is 100% for it. She voted against the No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion and Abortion Insurance Full Disclosure Act that would have codified the Hyde Amendment, ensuring that no federal funds, so your tax dollars, could be used for abortions or to subsidize health plans that include abortion coverage. No, she makes her position extremely clear. This is not hyperbole. Kamala Harris believes in abortion for any reason through all 9 months paid for by the tax dollar. I promise she will see that come to fruition when she is president. She will do whatever it takes. Her career is based on the death and the exploitation of the most vulnerable. You can call Donald Trump mean in some of the things that he said. Sure, some of the things that he said are insensitive. And maybe his tweets were a bit impolite. Sure, there are definitely things that he said that I don't agree with. I wouldn't have said it. I wouldn't have said it like that. I don't like it. This goes well beyond that, okay? Like, I'll take the mean tweets. I'll take the rude things, the impolite things, maybe some of the confusing things that Donald Trump says. He's a little rough around the edges. Sure, what she has done in her career, the moves that she's made are so beyond me. Mean is like maybe the most generous word that I can use to describe who Kamala is and what she has done with her positions of power. Of course, she supports the Equality Act. The Equality Act would also seek to strip you of your First Amendment, your freedom of religion and freedom of speech rights, because it would basically force religious institutions to sanction gender ideology and the so-called marriage of two people of the same sex. She is bought and paid for not only by the abortion lobby, but also the LGBTQ lobby. She will do anything they say. She supports her friend Gavin Newsom and all of the radical moves that he has made to try to push children into the arms of surgeons who will chop off their breasts, genitally mutilate them. Some of her other radical positions, she is anti-fracking. Anti-fracking. Do you know how many jobs that will kill? Do you know how that will absolutely topple any remnants of energy independence that we have? Do you know how vulnerable that makes us as a country? And I'm not exaggerating. This is her back in 2019, SOP 4.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue.
She also wants to eliminate insurance and just make everything socialist government run, just like the UK, just like Canada, where people have to wait for months and months and months to even get a cancer reading. Here is SOP 5.
So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
Okay, so I meant to say cancer screening. That's something that happens regularly in the UK and Canada. Of course, people who can afford it, where do they come? They come to the United States for those things. So she's saying right there that you can't even keep your insurance even if you like it. And she's saying somehow that going through the government, our efficient government, our effective government, that's going to eliminate the headache. That's going to eliminate the paperwork and all the complications. It's somehow just going to be easy when things go through our federal government. You understand that the DMV is like the best run government entity that we have, right? How many of you have had like a positive, cheery experience at the DMV lately? That is literally the best experience that you will have with the government. Imagine the government saying what kind of doctor you can see, what kind of health care you can get in line, not just based on what we deem your medical need to be, but also based on your values, based on your social credit score, which is easily findable nowadays, or easily tracked, created through the purchases you make, through the things that you say online, the people that you follow. I wish that were fear-mongering. I wish that were hyperbole. But it's not. When you've got someone as far left and as radical as Kamala Harris, buy fracking, buy the health insurance that you like, buy the American medical system, being the leading medical system in the world. We've got our issues, sure, but it's the best place to go for really serious medical conditions. Goodbye, free speech. Goodbye, freedom of religion. Goodbye, any restriction on abortion. Goodbye, the freedom of pregnancy centers to provide what's needed for these women. Cruel Kamala is headed your way. Again, I wish I were exaggerating, but I've just painted an accurate picture for you based on who she has proven herself to be. And some of you are acting like you're scared of Trump being a dictator. What has he done? Tell me. Tell me what he has done that is dictatorial. Not what you think he's said in some offhand remark. What has he done? Which policies are dictatorial? Not just which policies don't you like, but tell me what is anti-democracy that he has actually enacted in his political career. Because I can list you some by Kamala. What can you say about Donald Trump? I get you don't like him, but if you're worried about tyranny and a dictatorship, you can't vote for Kamala Harris and be a serious person. Come on now. Come on. I'm going to finish with just a monologue about how I think, again, on our side, we should be thinking and talking about Kamala Harris. Let me just get my last sponsor. Let me just do that so I can go through the whole monologue without pausing. Let me tell you about Good Ranchers. Guys, I love Good Ranchers so much. We eat it almost every night in our home. I love the ground beef. I love the better than organic chicken, the seafood. We eat the bacon almost every morning. It's just awesome knowing that we are supporting American farms and ranches. We don't have to worry about the fake stuff, the mRNA in any of our meat, because it is all from farms and ranches that have been fully vetted, are really American farms. They're not just giving us meat that is manufactured or packaged in the United States. This is real American meat, and it's really, really good. Right now, they've got an awesome deal going on. They are giving all new subscribers a free gold medal add-on for the next 4 years. You can enjoy plain chicken breast, Angus ground beef, applewood bacon, or wild-caught salmon in every order for the next 4 years. Plus, with my exclusive code, you'll get an additional $25 off your first box. Use my code Allie at checkout to claim $25 off your first box, free express shipping, and your free add-on for 4 years. GoodRanchers.com, code Allie. Kamala Harris has never had nationwide appeal. Never. She has only ever won an election in deep blue California. And she only won because she was placed in positions of power by people more powerful than her, not because she was wanted. When she's tried to run for national office like she did in 2020, she has failed miserably. She got nowhere in that election, couldn't even gain any traction in her home state. And then as vice president, she has a 38% job approval rating right now, only a little higher than her all-time lowest at 37%. According to 538, she's got a 42% favorability rating. That is even with where Mike Pence's favorability rating was at this point, according to YouGov. And consider, Mike Pence was the VP to perhaps the most maligned and lied about president in history. And in August of 2020, we were in the middle of COVID and on the heels of the summer of George Floyd. People were blaming Trump and Pence for literally everyone's death. So that's where Mike Pence was at this point. That's where Harris is. Harris is not popular. She is not a popular politician. She is radical policy-wise. Personality-wise, she brings little to the table. She is patronizing. She explains things like she is talking to 9-year-olds, even when she is talking to world leaders. There are many strong women, I think, who could represent the United States in a no-nonsense way on the world stage. Kamala Harris is not one of them. She is cold. The only warmth she brings is her laugh, which may be her best attribute, actually, but is clearly a nervous tick and not a spontaneous manifestation of joy. That's just obvious based on the context of the videos of her laughing. She laughs at completely inappropriate times, likely to compensate for not knowing what to say. She is very inarticulate in speeches. She cannot string together cogent thoughts in interviews. She has no idea what to say in response to reporters when asked even the easiest and most basic questions about the news of the day. And here is an example of that. Recently, she was unscripted. She was at Joint Base Andrews. President Biden and her were greeted by 2 Americans freed by Russia following the large prisoner swap that just happened. And so she was asked just like, how do you feel about that? Really, really easy to give some kind of canned, articulate answer. But here's her attempt at that. It's sought 2.
This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day.
Okay. I'm just not sure why. I'm just going to leave it at why. I don't know. And then here's one example of many, many, many of how Kamala Harris tries to appear very thoughtful and profound in speeches and then ends up just saying a whole bunch of nothing. This is SOT 3.
The governor and I, and we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children.
See, I had otherwise reasonable people telling me that she would have dominated J.D. Vance in a debate. These are moments that are layups for politicians. This should have been really, really easy. Kamala Harris, I'm saying this as gently as possible. She doesn't have a whole lot going on upstairs, y'all. She just doesn't. And like cruelty, stupidity, really, really dangerous alliance. And I say that with the utmost concern for our country. On the other hand, we have Trump and J.D. Vance. Trump, whatever anyone says about him, and even with the flaws that he does have, you guys have heard me say them, talk about them. He is a beloved father and grandfather. He had a long career before he became a politician. J.D. Vance came from nothing. He represents the American dream. You can be poor, seemingly without a future, and you can make something of yourself. He is a veteran. He was a successful businessman. He is a loving husband and father. Kamala Harris calls them weird because she's mean. The woman who believes that men can become women, the woman who supports men and girls' bathrooms, the genital mutilation of children, the removal of gender-confused children from the custody of their parents, who supports explicit sex material in schools distributed by her friends at Planned Parenthood, the woman married to the man who, just reported by the Daily Mail, cheated on his wife with the nanny and got her pregnant. Yikes. But, of course, what she really means when she calls these two normal men weird is that you're weird. You're weird, she thinks. Kamala Harris has it out for you. She has always had it out for the normal, Christian, pro-life, conservative American. From the beginning of her career, these are the people she thinks are weird. She thinks you, homeschooling mom, are weird. You, worshiping Christian. You, pro-life advocate. You, parent concerned with the predation of gender ideology. You, patriotic American. You're weird to her. And not only that, but as she has proven throughout her career, you are a threat. And she will not hesitate to take you out. Biden's DOJ has put pro-life grandmothers, grandparents in prison for blocking an entrance to an abortion clinic, a place where innocent babies are literally dismembered. Seems like that should be the crime, right? Joan Bell, 76 years old, sentenced in May to 2 years in prison. Gene Marshall, a 74-year-old man, sentenced to 2 years in prison, thanks to Biden's DOJ. Remember the National School Boards Association in 2022, they sent a letter to the Biden admin asking for help from the Department of Justice to counter the quote-unquote domestic terrorism of parents showing up at school board meetings with concerns about, for example, porn at school. According to the Washington Post, after he received the letter, quote, Biden himself called the president of the NSBA board to thank her. He called the president of the NSBA board to thank her after the letter saying these concerned parents are domestic terrorists. NSBA was, quote, consulting with and pressing the administration to act on what its executive director saw as a serious threat to local school board members, end quote. So under Biden's direction, his Department of Agriculture issued a rule that the SNAP program, which provides lunches for poor kids at public schools, will be withheld from any school that doesn't comply with the new definition of sex in Title IX, which includes so-called gender identity. So that means let boys and girls bathrooms or no school lunches for the impoverished kids. That's the Harris-Biden administration, and it will be much, much worse in 4 to 8 years of Kamala Harris. Your grocery bill and gas bill will skyrocket. There will be hundreds of thousands of more Laken Rileys. The instability that we see overseas will show up on our shores. Under Trump, we had economic prosperity, international stability, justice elections that led to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Over the past few months, SCOTUS has made monumentally positive decisions that are going to affect America for generations. That is thanks to Trump. I want more of that. I want more of that. Now, I do have some thoughts for Team Trump. I don't have time to explain them all right now, so I'll just I'll summarize my thoughts. Stay on message. There is so much to hit Kamala Harris on. So much. She has so much in her past. I'm just giving you a few examples of publicly available information that a lot of people do not know. All right? And so you, Team Trump, wasting time on Governor Brian Kemp, who is a pretty popular Republican governor of Georgia, wasting time talking about whether Kamala Harris is Indian or Jamaican or Black. These are not the messages that are going to get the undecideds to vote for you. But people will respond to rightful fear of a Kamala Harris presidency based on what she has actually done in her career. I can't speak for all voters. Certainly, I'm just one demographic, but you need every single evangelical woman to vote for you. Every single one. And they might not vote for Kamala Harris. Maybe some of them will, hopefully not. But it is possible that they might be politically apathetic. It is possible that they may not vote, or they'll write someone in, or they'll vote for a third party. All of that is possible. Their vote needs to be won. Don't focus on the messages that rile people up that are already going to vote for you. Don't focus on the messages for people who are never going to vote for you. Because there are people who are never going to vote for you. You don't need to spend your money and your time trying to get those people to vote for you. But there are some people ripe for the taking within evangelicalism, and they need to be shown why Kamala Harris will be a disaster for the most vulnerable in this country, and why you will be their champion. Trump team, show Trump's softness, show his humanity. Yes, his strength too, but that strength can be shown through how he is a beloved father and grandfather. Show them in their element as family men. Show them with their kids, with their grandkids. Show us the glory days of America that you will take us back to, and then some. Use nostalgia even to your benefit, and then contrast all of that warmth, that strength, that stability, that normalcy, that true compassion and care and understanding for the average American with Kamala Harris, who is bought and paid for, cruel, callous, calculating, a mean girl, what she's been her entire career, that will only lead to disaster and instability for the average American. That would be my advice for whatever it's worth. For the rest of us, engage your friends. We've got a binary choice. It is what it is. We're not voting for the person who is perfect. That is for sure. Neither candidate is perfect. Trump is not as pro-life as I want him to be. He doesn't say and do all the things I want him to do, but I will do whatever it takes to keep Kamala Harris out of the White House. I think I have a responsibility to do that, and we all have to do our part. All right, that's all I got time for today. Went a little over, but this is an important message, and we will be back here tomorrow.